Greetings folks, my name is Timothy. I am a human being, and in these videos I'm tasked with talking about the nature of the times to about several thousand unique individuals. And astrology is an objective science through which we see reflected back the nature of all things. So we're talking about the collective energy on this planet at this time. Now, there can sometimes be a difference between what people desire me to give to them and what I desire to give to people. So sometimes making these videos can be a little challenging. Regardless of what I say, I will be, as always, helplessly channeling the dynamics and the energies of these times. It is a very dynamic tension which we are working with in these times. And to begin with, therefore, we need to reframe tension as not being something bad or negative. As sometimes I am bewildered and can hardly believe some of the information that is talked about and shared by other astrologers, as if what they say could ever be helpful, instead of generating pain, anxiety, worry, needlessly. So we must begin by redefining this tension as a creative opportunity. And indeed, where we are in time is a critical turning point. So this is a productive tension. A tension is when there are two or more parts that don't seemingly cohesively agree with one another. They create some friction. And this friction is encouraging us to make changes. So this is, again, actually a time period of a critical turning point, as opposed to a time period that we need to be worried about and it's dangerous and it's scary. Certainly it may feel like this at times, but it's not the end of the world. The challenge, the opportunity is in being patient, flexible, willing to explore through trial and error. Now, what we're seeing this week, the first week of September, today's September 1st, is this tension existing between the outer planets Saturn and Pluto. The outer planets have to do with the interpersonal, the world, the whole, the collective, and this Saturn-Pluto is a fair degree of societal pressure coming from the outside, work, bosses, our society, our family, traditionalism, culture. And the Saturn-Pluto conjunction ongoing this year of 2020 is an indication of societal, global reprioritization and restructuring, changing the fundamental dynamics of the game. This is happening in a very massive, deep, profound way. And in early September, we see Venus and Mars creating a cardinal T-square between the Saturn and Pluto. So Venus just opposed Pluto last Sunday, August 30th, and coming up tomorrow, Wednesday, September 2nd, Venus is opposite to Saturn. And also, first quarter square to Mars, who is stationing retrograde these coming weeks, 9 degrees of Aries. So Venus square to Mars can bring up this, I should start by saying, Venus, Mars are the personal planets. So now we're having our personal needs, our inner values, our individual needs, our individual desires, our relationship dynamics. This is where we experience this dynamic tension right now. It's the world and society versus personal needs, relationship and intimacy needs for connection versus our own independence. So Venus has been in Cancer, and there are needs to process, for downtime, to self-reflect. Mars stationing retrograde in September can be exhausting. We can really be getting pushed to our limits. Where we are getting pushed beyond our limits, there's a need for adjustment and flexibility, not forcing a square peg through a round hole, as we've been saying through this whole Mars retrograde period. So Venus in Cancer needs this me time to process, self-reflect, get in touch with our feelings, our family, our tribe, and have this sense of support as well. What are we really doing? What really matters? And we may be going through this period of adjusting our own inner values, how we're relating to others, how we can get these inner emotional needs met. It's again, trial and error, adjustment period, using the friction to hone in on where changes need to be made. We see the Sun in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo these weeks. There is this refining, purifying, rectifying, adjusting, removal of distractions, removal of interferences, removal of impurities, bad habits, addictions. And this takes effort, but also time, flexibility, patience, forgiveness, surrendering. We'll talk about the full moon in Pisces. I'm delivering this message underneath. That full moon is exact this evening. Okay. So there can also be little triggers in terms of how to do these adjustments, how to make this reprioritization happen. Values are being questioned. Does this really matter? Is this really filling me up? Does this require my prioritization just because it pays money? Does this important because it's important to my family or it was important to me in the past? That's what we're talking about here. A real pause. And it doesn't feel like we have any room to pause. There's no stopping or standing with this dynamic tension right now. But there is a need to create this space and time to self-reflect so we can make the adjustments in a way that's in service to our soul and not just going through the old rhythms. That's something to really be aware of, is that we're not just doing the old patterns. We're not just doing the old rhythms. We cannot go about things in the same way if we want to really be satisfied in the deeper way. That this time is inviting us to explore and adjust, to have this deeper sense of fulfillment. Now, Mars retrograde. I've been saying this stuff redundantly. Check out my last video on YouTube. The first 20 minutes go into Mars retrograde, and if you want the real scoop, the real details, all the dates, all the information, sign up for my Patreon page. $6 a month, you get extra videos. I have a 35-minute video on this Mars retrograde. Generally, exploration of desire. What do we really want? What do we want to do? What desires are healthy and empowering to us? Or what desires are misleading, away from ourselves? We were misled into believing this is what we should do or what we want by our world, by our society, by gender stigmas, by tradition and culture, etc. Mars retrograde reflects. We'll do something instinctually and then we'll pause and question, why do I do that? That's Mars retrograde. So there's this tug and back and forth between Venus, Mars, Saturn, Pluto, inner pressure, outer pressure, inner world, public self, relationship, self-other. And there's this need for open road. With Mars retrograde, we have to explore our desires. We have to find what we want to do through this trial and error. There's a need for freedom, independence. And this can be coming up quite instinctually, or even through frustration or anger, or this type of friction. To take the reins, to take control, to do it our way, to break free. That is essentially some of the underlying overall theme of this whole Mars retro period, taking us now through the beginning of 2021. This Mars stationing in a first quarter square to Saturn-Pluto wants to initiate something new. Mars in his own sign of Aries, the trailblazer, the way paver, the leader, the entrepreneur. And it's being challenged by Saturn-Pluto, the society, the world, the business, the bureaucracies, the structures. We've got to make this new path work. We've got to break this new path in. And that's where the trial and error, the going back and forth, the refining is really, really taking place. But it's like a wild stallion, a wild beast that we're taming and we're training these next several months. Now, while Mars is stationed in this first quarter square in September, this wild stallion really wants to take off. It doesn't want to do the work. It doesn't want to go through the motions. It doesn't want to go to the gym and do the workout to be healthy. It might just want to feel healthy and feel empowered and be able to lift so many weights now, right? So we can each be experiencing this dynamic in highly unique ways, this instinctual wanting to take off and take charge. And that's where there's this taming, this lassoing, this relaxing, this not taking it too seriously, not forcing a square peg through a round hole, not letting this over forcefulness sabotage our life or mislead us again from what it is that we really want to do, where these instincts can be so defensive or so protective. And that is a fundamentally useful emotion, anger, defensiveness, but it must be harnessed. We're lassoing this wild beast so that way it can be directed in a way that is empowering, that we have some level of creative control. Now, again, this Mars wants to take off. This is the mountain climber. This is like the triathlon winner, and we can, again, harness and begin the track to become the triathlon winner. We can harness this type of power and energy at this time. So we're paving the road to what we want by rolling up our sleeves at this time, preparing for the adjustments. Again, Virgo season, this can really play out physically. There can be physical health dynamics that are coming up at this time. It is almost not personal. It is like our own bodies are becoming more sensitive, more aware, more online, and there is therefore necessary adjustment and improvements. So we can't take these things so personally. Our bodies, our energy levels, we have to just be so delicate and so flexible with, Virgo wakes us up to what is not working perfectly so we can bring healing awareness to those places. So it's not failure, it's feedback. It's an opportunity for us to make adjustments, become empowered, make changes to our body, health, routine, schedule, and become empowered. This is an endurance test. We're having the tires kicked. And again, Mars is physical body, endurance, energy, sexuality. The freedom to act on our own body's instinctual desires, which are not misleading us away from our spiritual journey, but leading us deeper into our individuality as unique souls. What we need to be in our power, what we need to be in our potential can come full circle in the gifts that we're offering back to the world, especially when we get to this full moon in Pisces tonight. So Mars is about self-protection. Do we feel like a warrior? Brave, confident, unfaltering, in charge, leading our own life by our own will. This is what we're working for. If we don't have what we need, if we don't have what we desire, Mars stationing square to Saturn-Pluto asks the question, how can we transform the materials at hand? How can we transform the materials at hand? This is a molting alchemical work. We've got to create this. It's not being served to us on a silver spoon by our still trapped in the dark ages world, culture, and society. By the way, are we all hopefully waking up to how actually dark our world is in this year of 2020? We do not hear the other astrologers talking about Saturn-Pluto transiting their own south nodes and how this indicates a collective reflection of collective historic past. And we see the ugly face of patriarchy rearing its ugly head for us to see what needs to change. So yes, the world is dark. Our culture and society is not as progressive as what it has sold to us as it being. Like a giant billboard ad. It's a deception. So hopefully we're seeing where the world is, where we want to go, and the vast difference in between. And I am sorry. I sincerely apologize to those few and far between truly awake and aware souls for how incredibly heartbreakingly depressing and isolating it is to be on the planet at this time. That is a symptom of your awakeness and alertness. And we are not looking to charlatans and false role models with fake smiles plastered on their heads, as if they are enlightened or they're gurus or they know what's best for us. These are the souls that are so disassociated from their bodies, they're delusional. So if we're not waking up to how dark the world is, we might want to be wary that we might be in the camp that's going off the deep end. And as I've been talking about the last several months, Neptune square the moon's nodes has this propensity. The times are so dark for those who cannot handle where we actually are. And this is not the end of the world. We have all the light within us to keep ourselves afloat, to keep ourselves connected and tethered to the whole Mother Earth, God, the source of all things. No problem. We can be in this dark world, no problem. But it's not faking where we are. Our hearts bleed when we are awake and alive and aware in this world. That's the wisdom of the divine feminine, that feeling-based intelligence. But again, it's too much to process. It's easier to go into some alternative reality where everything's good or everything's going to magically become love and light and we're all going to be ascended and the UFOs are going to land. And there is a split between those who are actually involved in reality and changing the materials at hand, which is our individual soul's spiritual service and work, versus those who are trying to skip that work, skip going to the gym, skip working on themselves, and bypass straight into the vacation party that is not why we took birth on this planet. And I'm actually skipping an entire rant that I could get into. Mars retrograde can be anger, reactivity, defensiveness, protectiveness, what to watch out for, what to be wary of. That's important that we have this discernment coming from our own guts, our own instincts, what we've learned through our bodily, physical life experience in the past comes from this animal, lower chakra, divine feminine nature. So anger is a protective emotion. It's like, hey, I watched victims get used and shamed by a patriarchal, Trump-like boss. Let's make sure that we don't get hired by another patriarchal, Trump-like boss, right? And next time I'm in a job interview, I'm going to know those red flags. I'm going to sniff out those ulterior motives, and I'm going to draw the line. So even anger, reactivity, it's a defensive, protective. Let's make sure that us and others are not being manipulated, harmed, taken advantage of, etc. Okay, so it's not the tension or the intensity or the reactivity or the sharpness. For those of you who are energetically sensitive, there's like, buzz saws and nails. This is like the energy of this time in a bit. But it's not hell in a way where it's punishment or it's just like, oh, I must have done something bad in the past and now I'm being punished. It is, again, this can be harnessed, this can be used. Mars is the leading edge of our soul's evolution that wants to break free into new dimensional possibilities. That's where this alchemical transmutation is taking place to open this portal in the future. We've got to prepare the vessel. We're not ascending out of our bodies. That is such a common patriarchal misconception. The human being is the most divine thing in existence, where we anchor paradise into this temple. And this earth is paradise, and this is the Garden of Eden. It's all here. The materials to create paradise are already here. This world being completely lost in hell is a sign of this total collective de-evolution as it's taken place over thousands of years of time. When we disconnect from our lost world and society and reconnect with nature, we return to our center and our bliss. So this Mars is like holding a flaming sword, what we have to carve out of our life. We've all been infected by the world and society. We've been born into poisonous waters. And so there's this cutting out of the crap. And this is an inner process, right? It is so easy to look out there in the world and see the villains and see the abuse and the manipulation, and it's too much for us to declare war or to point out the sticks in our brother's eye before we remove the log on our own, right? So this is real magic. The real magicians out there in the world that are fully empowered in performing miracles and changing the reality, not only of their own, but others' lives, they've worked on the demons in themselves. One of my favorite teachers, Amma, she has said, in prior ages, Demons were on the outside, and then demons were born into our families. In this age, demons are inside of us. We've already been there. We've already soaked up this nature that must be removed. We must detoxify and purify ourselves. The full moon in Pisces tonight is where we feel into this collective essence. We feel the world. We feel the collective unconscious of humanity. And we must be like a sponge wringing out this darkness that is unnatural. This is our service as individuals to purify. This is our service back to Mother Earth. This is our service to nature. So Pisces is our connection to the whole. How we can change the materials at hand is by connecting to the source of all things in whatever way is natural to our own individual nature, which will be different per each and every individual. This is why there's no such thing as a singular religion, a singular God, a singular practice, a singular belief system. That's bullcrap when it becomes one size fits all. That's called oppression. That's called anti-nature. Nature is diverse, rainbow, all chromatic. Okay? So we find our individual and unique way that is natural to our hearts. We feel full. We celebrate our connection to the divine, and that fills us up, connecting to the source of all things. And then we connect to this earth. What is our service? What is our work? Being so full and so inspired, what does that inspiration drive us to contribute to do here on this planet Earth? This is the Virgo-Pisces polarity. This is the opportunity for devotional service. That's the high octave Virgo, devotional service. Devotion is what each and every soul is aspiring to find. What service honors our unique individual that gives us such a great, profound feeling of connection by being connected to something bigger than just ourselves. When we find our devotional service, it's effortless, it's automatic, it's not hard work. But it's also useful, healing, and uplifting to others. That's what we're refining. That's what we're honing in on. Now, this full moon is sextile to Uranus. Be eccentric. Find that unique service. Whatever connects you to God, it's yours. Whether you be a tantric dakini or a stoic monastic Buddhist monk or a fakir or a bal or a magician, there is no right or wrong spiritual practice. There are mermaids and fairies and angels and satyrs and river nymphs. Be your unique self. Let your freak flag fly. This is how you find your connection to God simultaneously. It's not going to be by following the others. We can't just fake it till we make it and look like others and attend the church. This full moon is also semi-square to Saturn-Pluto sesquiquadrate to Venus. So there's a clear creative tension between this otherworldliness that we're learning to tune into and the dead end of our world and society in which we live. The otherworldliness of our dreams, our goals, our inspiration, our connection, and the people, the groups, the surroundings that we're within. It's like, how can we be ourselves and find those others? It's a part of the moon's north node transiting Gemini this next year is we're finding the groups, finding the networks, putting ourselves out there, communicating, teaching, expressing our truth. That way the others can locate us and come out of the woodwork simultaneously as we're honoring our own unique individual service. So again, this dynamic tension is like public self, private self, other, cardinal signs. This is the door that we're going in and out of, back and forth, back and forth. So to be positioned in ourselves, connected to our truth, and yet also active participants in the world. This is the purpose of any authentic spiritual practice. Okay? So authentic spiritual practice integrates family, friends, work, service, culture, society, food, diet, good, evil, pleasure, pain, warmth, crisis. Everything is fuel to the fire in an authentic spiritual practice. And what is excluded or discarded, or that's nasty, or that's not a part of nature, that is a part of nature, we have to make sure that we include everything in our spiritual practice. Sexuality, body, desires, individuality, We can't just shortcut Mars from our spiritual practices, or the feminine, the moon, Venus, the way that our forefathers unfortunately did for thousands of years, via evolutionary necessity and the need to survive. But anyways, different times, different reality, which we're pioneering and opening up these days, my friends. Okay, so what I would like to talk about is where we are in time. This is what I teach about. This is what I do astrology for. I'll give a little bit of a personal public announcement towards the end of this video, the stuff that I would love to share. I'm looking for those people that want to learn to read souls. I'm looking for people who really want to learn authentic astrology. Stick tuned for that message at the end. Where we are in collective time, the majority of natural wisdom, our connection to nature, our respect of what is natural has been lost. The standards of religion, the standards of the New Age movement, which largely reflects old religion, it's not that new, folks. The New Age movement, not really that progressive. Again, our world and society sells being more progressive than it actually is as a result of capitalism. So there's this patriarchal conditioning that has infected all these religions, all the New Age movement. The astrological community is not devoted to getting people healing, life-improving astrology. The astrological movement is largely capitalism. Money-making, organization building, branding, logoing, and then, it's just like, is it really useful or helpful at all? This is the world in which we live. It does not matter what cult, what group. It's everywhere. It's everything. We have to recognize these dynamics. Otherwise, we're clueless. And we have to recognize these dynamics in ourselves. Because the New Age movement, as an example, sorry, I'm going to try to calm down. I know people don't like it when I get too crazy. Maybe some do. The New Age movement is a bunch of people that get overexcited because we've discovered something that's new and progressive, but we haven't actually done the work of deconditioning from society. Then we're driven by money, fame, name, connections, internet success, the next astrological convention where someone's winning a trophy. And these are armchair astrologers. They're talking heads. That's the astrological community. End rant. So this is capitalism. This is business. This is not devoted to healing or caring. I can only speak to what I've experienced in my last 10 years of doing this professionally. So this is, again, we have to look in ourselves. Where have we been conditioned by these expectations, obligations? Where are we shortcutting ourselves? Where are we giving to ourselves the short end of the deal because we've been unconsciously programmed to be in a certain set of behaviors? Oh, I've got to be polite. Oh, I've got to, make sure the next authority likes me so I can get to the next rung of the ladder. So, I can get to the next stage of spiritual ascension, etc., etc., etc. It's all misleading. It's all unrealistic. None of this is real life or real spirituality or real love. This is all about love, spirituality. Where do these societal constructs and capitalistic agendas reflect love, connection, sharing in a uplifting, peaceful, inspirational way? So, again, Neptune square to the moon's north node this next year, we can either be going off the deep end, conspiracy theories, belief systems just pulled out of thin air, heroes and demons. A big red flag is when people are constantly talking about the darkness, the demons that are outside of them, and they're going to get this. That's a sign that someone's not working on their inner self. That's something to be aware of when it comes to these spiritual movements. Cults are constantly fighting the darkness that are on the outside, but we've got everything perfect on the inside. Do we? That's the question here. What cult, what organization has perfectly preserved what's going to work for every unique individual? It has to be found within ourselves. It's not served to us on the outside by the world. It's time to connect to something bigger than just ourselves. To tune into this Neptune, we can really become channels. Upper connection, lower connection. Easy, effortless. something that's not found in the world. Mars will need to lead, initiate, break free, and open new dimensional possibilities. Okay, so this is Virgo season. It's time for humility. It's time to clean. It's time to be small. The most powerful magic is small, subtle, behind the scenes. The most powerful healing-based astrologers, healers, teachers are not popular. Their faces are not all over YouTube. This is reality. This is nature. When we start to evolve and really tune in, it's leaving the world. Our feet are still on the world. We're practical. We're able to function. We're able to provide that service, but we're tuning into the Pisces full moon, other world, outside of norm, outside of acceptable, outside of making money or pleasing other people, or, in that same, oh, it's got to be done on time, oh, it's got to be to this standard bullshit. Out the window. Please and thank you. Okay. Mercury goes into Libra Saturday, September 5th through September 27th. That's this coming up weekend. Venus follows the following day, Sunday, September 6th, stays in Leo through October 2nd. So there's this movement, shift this next weekend, kind of coming out of a phase in August that's a little bit more inner, emotional, reflective, processing, tuning in. And there's a little bit more of a creative, outward, collaborative, connecting, sharing shift as we start to get through the first week of September. Okay, this is about collaboration. Now, Mars stations retrograde exactly on September 9th. So again, the underlying theme is desire. What do we want? It's a time to pause, to reflect, to share our intentions, to receive feedback, and to not have to know what we are going to be doing several months, several years from now. No, it's this experiment. What do we want to do? We're going to find our way to our authentic desires and find our way to making our authentic desires really work. Can't take it too seriously, can't force a square peg through a round hole while we're dealing with this creative tension that really wants to explore and really wants to birth something new. Okay, personal announcement. What do I really want to do with astrology? For those who want to learn authentic, deep, accurate astrology that is not common out there in the world of pop astrology. I want to know you, meet you, and I want to know what you want to use astrology for. What I teach is evolutionary astrology. What this practice leads the soul into is being able to read the soul, period. Past lifetimes, current dynamics, where the soul wants to go in the future can be seen. Don't even need the astrology once you learn enough of the evolutionary astrology. So this is what I would love to teach. What I also offer are astrology readings for those that need them. Astrology is a service to help us when we're in times of tension or crisis. That's why I give astrology readings, for those who need them. I teach astrology who want to learn the same skill and depth to offer that same healing service to others. And finally, this is my big aspiration. I have an online community, Patreon community. We've got an online chat room. People bring in their birth charts. There's an online astrobot. People are asking about transits, asking about astrology, reflecting personal opinions, sharing when they're having bad days, sharing their emotions. I'm in there when I have bad days. This has been a support group to me. I am extremely grateful and thankful to some of the souls that are already a part of this community, and I would love to see this community expand. But in particular, it's not about the growth, it's not about the numbers, it's the feeling that we are like minds that are using astrology to come into our soul's potential, to actualize our gifts, to share our gifts, to celebrate our gifts, to enjoy sharing and celebrating our gifts with others in a way that is really supportive. You can be yourself. You can have bad days. You can share your bullshit to other people who have bullshit, to other imperfect human beings, as we learn through trial and error, make mistakes and adjust. That's my desire. I don't just want to be a talking head on YouTube. I want to sit down with a group of people that love one another, that love life, that love celebrating the beauty of life, the beauty of our interconnectivity. This is the beauty of nature. This is the beauty of astrology. Astrology is not this left brain reading books, speaking in some alternative language, computer nerd shit. That's not what real astrology is. So I'm also looking for locals, people who are in North Carolina. If this sounds appealing to you, I want to know that you're out there. And I'm also going to say, what are your desires? What would you like to see astrology used for? Feel free to shoot me an email. I may not respond, but I'm looking for people's feedback. What do you desire? And what I desire is to give astrology in a powerful, useful, proof is in the pudding, life-affirming, life-changing type of way for other souls that really want to get down into knowing and understanding real life, to be able to read souls, to be able to read the collective human unconscious. This is not for the weak of heart. This is for the few and far between. And my desire is to feel the sense of connection, to know that there are others out there. And so this is me putting out my signal, and I look forward to seeing what kind of response we get and what kind of transforming the materials at hand we can potentially work at together in the near future. So again, wishing you absolutely all the best in this pioneering, this productive and very real creative tension. It's not personal, it's about how we use it. It's not failure, it's feedback, it's trial and error as the great inventors and way pavers of a totally new world and a totally new dimension that we get to create. Wishing you absolutely all the best, and as always, as a absolutely necessary aspect of being these souls and doing this work, number one priority, take care of yourself.